So, good evening. We're going to be talking about the recent events surrounding the death of Sarah Everard and the cancelled vigil that was held for her that somehow took place, and the attendance of the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton. Although very brief, we're going to discuss the effects and that and the actions.
So, good evening.
Apologies. I apologise. These things happen, but I had to check.
So yeah,
Royalty breaks COVID rules. What's your views on the royalties breaking the rules? I mean, I understand the visual today that took place was in aid of Sarah Everard. Is that the correct name?
Everard, I believe it's pronounced.
Okay, so I mean, it's sad news. It really is sad news hearing this situation.
Yeah, I guess we don't know the full details of how she was killed, but by all intents and purposes doesn't sound like it was pretty in any shape or form. We watched an article earlier where someone pointed out that it wasn't a body that was found, it was remains. And you normally associate remains with somebody that has been missing for a significant period of time. She, in essence, was only missing for 10 days. So to find remains as opposed to finding, they always say, we found a body was discovered today when a man was walking his dog. Mm-hmm. They didn't say that. They said we found remains. So,
Which, and I said that when I saw the news today, they were scoping around a bush. And I said, well, how did they manage to get that scope around the bush in and that detail we found remains? But I don't want to get sidetracked from that part. That has happened, that the man has been arrested. Big controversy about the police again in a bad light again, because it's a police officer, isn't it, that has committed this.
It's a funny situation to be. I mean, this kind of thing has happened in the past. Not so much here in this country, in other countries.
Oh no, I disagree, because it did happen. Remember when they had the murders of those girls in Suffolk, Steve Wright? First of all, they arrested a police officer for that, and then you see that was very scary. Then they overturned that and then arrested him. You see, that was the last memory of something like this when it comes to people and their bodies, etc., and dismantlement and things like that. That was an awful situation. Here we are, years later, and many years later, and we've got body and remains and police officer under suspicion for this.
Well, yeah, what I was going to say is that it's more prevalent in other countries, police officers killing people. You hear about it significantly more than you do here. The Steve Wright case you mentioned, yeah, you're quite right. They did arrest the police officer, but then he was released. But there are a few cases that you could draw reference to where police officers in this country have killed people. So the predicament that they're in now is this wasn't even a former police officer. This is a serving police officer, and it sounds like he was pretty high up. And when I say that, probably like a armed response officer or somebody like that.
What do you think this will do to the public now? I mean, the public, I mean, before we get to Kate at the minute, what do you think that will do for the public? I mean, there was quite a few police officers out for that visual today, but it did get a bit rowdy at the end of it, didn't it?
Well, the public are going to be in the same position tomorrow that they're in today. meaning the distrust is always there.
It is,
Something like this, but hang on a second, because this is important. Something like this is always going to fuel more distrust within the police. But guess what? It's the police that is the only people capable of
investigating themselves as well.
Yeah. This is the point that I'm saying. So what choice, what option does the public have when the answers for me are on the table?
Well, those answers.
Well, the answer is a police officer that is allegedly,
Use
although he's been
word.
charged, right? But allegedly killed this woman. They have to prove that next week. But again, we're now asking fellow police officers to, investigate this. Now, I suspect what will happen is they will investigate this fully and thoroughly, and they'll be as transparent as they possibly can to show that this officer, if proven guilty, acted for whatever reasons, whether he got a drug habit or whatever has happened to him. They will try to distance him from.
They would strip him of his uniform.
Right,
you're trying to say they'll strip him of his uniform. They won't give him any mates rates. And they will treat him as a criminal.
Yes.
Oh, well, they have to, because they are being scrutinised. But the problem we have, and this is what the problem that the public will sell, viewers, please feel free to comment or what your views are in the below, and we'll list them back out. The thing is that I have a problem with is the police doing the police work. Why can't they bring in independent? You got, when you put people on trial, they have jury. Okay. This is in the interest of the public. Okay. So my point to this is, what the worst outcome for this man at the end of the day will be sentence, and that's what's going to be, isn't it? Sentencing.
Yeah.
How is this sentencing going to be compared to somebody else who's done the same? Will he get less, or will he get more, or will he be under witness protection? Also, because he once wore that uniform. Once you wear that uniform, you put yourself in a very dangerous situation. Well, if you get arrested, right?
Well, look, I think, to answer several of the points there, will he get... Let's jump forward and assume...
Monica has said she's never trusted them.
All right, let's assume that he's guilty. Given the coverage, given what's happened, and when I say coverage, this has been in the news now for the last 5 days. It's had a debate in the courts whether or not this visual should go ahead. You cannot escape this case.
Let's get to the visual.
So therefore, if we presume that this chap is guilty and he's found guilty of murder, the judge has no option but to give him whatever the maximum is, which will be a full life sentence without the possibility of parole. But you and I both know now, once he goes to prison as a form, and you have to understand prison code, sex offenders and child molesters are treated extremely harshly by fellow inmates in prison. So factor that in with the fact that he was once a former police officer who probably put many of them behind bars as well. He will have to end up spending the majority of his time in solitary confinement. And if it's a life sentence, then it's a life sentence. So he's really going to be...
He's under danger. He's put his life
I will be surprised if he lasts any length of time without somebody doing something to him. That's the prison code, as they say. You live by the gun, you die by the gun. So
pardon the pun. I mean, let's get to the visual now. I mean, thank you. That's really some really crucial information there. But especially like prison code, if people aren't aware of prison code, what have they got to lose? Do you know what I mean? Especially if people are up there for murder already, what have they got to lose?
On a life sentence, they're not going nowhere.
They're not going nowhere.
When you
So how do you reform a police officer, though?
Well, he's for me
former.
He's. It's a good question. It's a difficult one to answer. But
they go into prison to be rehabilitated.
Okay, let me ask you the question then. Let me ask you the question, but in layman's terms.
Yeah.
You just happen to hear that a police officer murdered somebody, spent 10 years in prison, and on good behavior was released, and then went to join back the police force and got accepted.
Can that happen?
No, I'm just saying, hypothetically, would you be happy?
No.
With
because you can't trust.
Right, there you go.
There's no trust.
So there you go. So when you talk about rehabilitation of this individual, there's none, because his actions. Hold on. I've got to say this. His actions as a serving police officer versus Joe Public, you're supposed to be that one step above Joe Public insofar as to serve and protect, and Joe Public will look up to you. Remember, what did the old ladies want? A Bobby on the beat. That's what they told you it was like in the war. Oh, there was a policeman on every corner. If there's a problem, you call a policeman. What do you tell your children before they leave home for school in the morning? If you've got a problem, run to the nearest police officer.
Nah, man, call your mother.
No,
I'm just kidding. I know, because we get scared. People teach their kids in a different way, and I want to point that out.
So now, you cannot now. You'd be afraid now to tell your child to run to the nearest police officer when you hear what heinous things this individual now done to this,
and that's it's going to be scary. And now you're getting to it, because emotionally this is going to be completely scary for the public, because the people we're supposed to trust with our lives, even though many of us do not, that the uniform has failed, but the uniform has saved too. So it's yin and yang, isn't it? But the damage that has been done here, it ruins relationships further than what is already an issue out there. It's a further issue on top now. As you heard earlier, we played a clip of somebody commentating about the Met Police, etc. And the words are, who are we supposed to trust? How are we supposed to trust anyone now? Now, can we get to the point of psychological, the inside of this person's mind? Surely, upon interview, joining the police force, this person would have had a mental health assessment or some kind of assessment. What makes someone snap like that? Do you think he knew that person previously?
Well, I believe there was an incident between him and the lady, Sarah Everard, about 3 or 4 days before she went missing. And I think, pardon me, that's how comes the police were so quick to identify, this individual. And the other thing I wanted to say is, people are saying, well, how did they know where to go to look and all sorts of things like that. You've got to remember now, everybody's carrying a mobile phone in their pocket with GPS.
Yeah.
If you've got an old banger, 20-year-old banger, you can pretty much drive it nowhere or everywhere rather, and no one's going to notice. But all these modern cars also have GPS fitted to them as standard. So when you hear that they went to an address and then the investigation moved 60 miles away and then they removed the car, you have to ask yourself, well, how did they know that? There must be some sort of technology that's been involved, and then obviously they found these remains in the bushes. So that's crucial.
So went to great lengths to dismantle the body.
Right, but the other thing I was going to say is the Met will want to shut this down very quickly, and the reason I say that, this is too easy. Okay.
Can I just not sidetracked. A few months ago, there was an incident once again with the police, and I'm not going to forget about this. We never got an update. We don't get updates. And this is the thing. It becomes a big thing out there. Now, can you remember when a police officer was shot inside the police station? We wanted to know just how that happened. We never heard anything back about this big incident.
Yeah, there was something on, actually, now you bring that up, just about 2 weeks ago, I believe it's an internal inquiry, and it was found that the guy, I believe, reached for the gun or something untoward, but it has surfaced. But I think that the guy in question was charged with the murder of the custody sergeant, but I don't believe he's gone to court to face that charge just yet.
Let's get on to the Royal breaks COVID rules.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Right. Now, not long ago, we were talking about Meghan Markle and Harry, and that's been quite a bit of a stir, really, isn't it? A huge stir. And the issue that I have here is, yes, they did do a visual. The visual wasn't supposed to go ahead. However, this is life. But you see, this is causing a stir again, isn't it? This tragic incident is now causing another stir, because here is that people were told not to go to the visual. There was also, if you're out in groups, there is going to be for penalties and fines.
Well, yeah, because we're still in lockdown.
Yeah, and so what is Kate doing at this visual? I mean, you can see she doesn't seem that she's being protected here, but there she is at the visual, and I was quite shocked at that.
Well, again, you see, this is the problem that you face. Like I said, the police now find themselves investigating their own.
Yeah.
Yesterday, there was a court case trying to ban this vigil for this young woman, which was overturned, so they couldn't hold it. But the British public decided, sod that, we're going to hold it anyway. So it's just people just said, we're going. And they just all turned up, everybody like-minded, and you turn up with thousands of people. What's interesting is that, as we said earlier, Kate kind of pulls up, no flashing blue lights, in this image. And this image that you're showing is only about a 10-second image.
And she doesn't have a mask on either.
She's not.
Look.
I was going to point that out. She's not wearing.
Let me just see if I can zoom that bigger.
She's not wearing a mask.
She doesn't have a mask on in a crowded public place.
You just see her
no
go
mask
to
on.
What looks like a tree where somebody's put some candles, and you see her back out of the picture where you've got it correct. She steps to the left, and I suspect, wafted away in a sleeky Range Rover.
Do you think this is a stunt? I have to say, do you think this is a distraction now?
I think it's the right thing to do for somebody of her stature to come out and show support. I agree with that, but I do think it's a stunt because, as we've said, prior to this young girl being so brutally murdered, the story this week has been Meghan.
It has.
Yeah. And
let's bring Kate into it now. And so what you're saying is, and now when you look at it, is here comes the indirect institutional racism in your face. And I have to say that people will say, don't be silly. Well, look at it. When you pull it into that context, let's remove the limelight. Let's now bat one another off against another, because this is what really is going on. And this is what happens in the real world. Let's get rid of, what's her name again? Meghan Markle, and let's bring Kate into the fold. The two enemies. Even though they say that Kate apologized to to Meghan previously. It doesn't matter. The hot topic of the week was about Harry and Meghan and racism. And I'm telling you now, to have this stunt here, and I do think it is a bit of a gimmick just for me. And I think it's really sad to use someone's death to do that.
The timing isn't.
It's disgusting.
The timing isn't great, and I don't want to suggest that Kate doesn't care.
No, I'm not. Of course not.
For this young lady, but what I want to get to is this gathering was prohibited. Nobody's supposed to turn up. Mm-hmm. So now everybody's turned up. Police who are already in the firing line have had to come out and police it, and then you have a member of the, prominent member of the royal family turning up in what in essence is an illegal event because it was banned in court. So how do you then distinguish, thousands of people there, people getting manhandled and taken away in police vans, and Kate's turning up with close protection guards?
Which, as we say, let's just pinpoint, you rightly said it was illegal.
Well, in essence, yes, because it was, in my mind anyway, it was banned yesterday in the courts. Mm-hmm. So what got banned?
So how is this setting an example then?
Hold on a second. What they went to court to do yesterday was to get permission. They had COVID rules. I heard a lady say they had high-vis jackets, they had bottles of water, they had masks and everything, so it could be a big event and as best COVID compliant as possible. It's the police who said no, they didn't want it to go ahead, and the courts agreed with the police, so it shouldn't have gone ahead. But people, so the event managers cancelled it. Fine, so they're in the clear. But people got up this morning and thought, sod that, we want to show support to this girl, so we're going. Mm-hmm. So they got up and they went. So police now naturally have
Reclaim the Streets, it was called. The event was called Reclaim the Streets.
The official event, what actually took place today was just Joe Public just decided, well, we don't need officials to herd us down the street like cattle. We'll just go to, I believe in this instance, Clapham Common, where she went missing from. And we'll just rock up there, and that's what you saw, hundreds of people.
But they were going up, they were doing this all around.
And all there was around one, the countries,
there was one very close to where we reside, and we was meant to go. But I was worried about going as well because of the rules, so I didn't want to go. But then again, I thought there was also this another... it's surprising what TikTok carries on, isn't it? Because on TikTok, there was a lady talking about this visual versus another lady called, oh God, what was the name? Oh, there was another lady that went missing and nobody cared for her either. So I think what's happening in the community of IB, I'm going to spit it out because I can, is an issue of diversity right now going on. People are, what's going on here with all of this media stuff, it's causing a stir racially. It's getting people talking racially, and you're actually finding out who your friends are.
It's the coverage.
It is.
It's the coverage. You understand, Piers walking out of his...
Oh gosh, let's talk about Piers. I read
his interview.
Yeah, even though he walked out, but they're talking about reinstating him.
Well, that's only a petition. That's only a probably the Sun newspaper.
Now, how many petitions?
You had 200,000
complaints.
Signatures to get him back on.
How many complaints were there?
There was about 42,000.
And how many petition is there right now?
200,000.
So it's a lot more than the complaints.
Yeah, but I think that is because Piers is one of those people.
Should he come back?
No, I don't think he should come back, and I'm going to say why I don't think he should come back. This is not forget the walking out. I've listened to several interviews that he's conducted recently, including one with Chris Eubank. just a couple of weeks ago, where he tried to belittle Chris Eubank.
Really?
Yes, and Chris Eubank, in his infinite wisdom, put him in his pompous little way, put him back in his box. Now, what he was trying to ensue is that because Chris Eubank's dad used to flog him with the belt when he was naughty, that somehow Eubank was made a violent person, and he kept forcing the issue till Eubanks had to say to him, no, look, when he's trying to say, oh, it's barbaric and all this kind of stuff, and Eubanks said to him, no, listen, if my dad told me to stay at home, do my homework whilst he went to work, and me and my brother snuck out, and when we come back we got caught, my father would beat us, but he didn't abuse us, and that's not because my dad chose to beat me with a belt in the form of discipline. That didn't turn me into a killer boxer. That's what he was trying, and he kept, and then it was a bit about drugs, and he just kept riding him, and it was like.
So you think what Piers does is
it was like he was trying to. He couldn't
goads them into.
Yes, he couldn't
accept goodness.
Yeah, he couldn't just say, "Hey, Chris Eubank, former world champion boxer, let's talk about your boxing." He tried to
belittle him,
but yeah, he just couldn't accept that he's up there. Everybody knows who Chris Eubank is. He just, and it's the same thing with Meghan.
So you says Piers shouldn't come back. I personally would. I sat here and I said to you, I need to tell people about Piers's mental health and his behaviour. So let's look at the word behaviour. Piers's behaviour is very narcissistic. I know that, yes, he's in the media. He's there to challenge conversations and bring out and draw out information from people. And also I say that sometimes he will goad people to get that information. Maybe somebody's pulling his strings to get that information. Makes story, doesn't it? It makes money. Now, Piers's behavior is rude. He talks over people. He doesn't want to reason with when you talk about racism,
he's very biased.
Yeah, he's very biased.
Extremely biased.
When you talk about racism or any of the problems that he has, it's one side. He makes it.
No, they don't exist. It doesn't exist. No, it doesn't exist.
He makes it personal, really personal. So it's his feelings on display. It really is completely on display. And the fact that he can walk out in a tantrum, okay, fair enough, he walked out in a tantrum. That is unprofessional. Second of all, it was male dominance. Male dominance. He can't have things his way. He will destroy and go out of the way to destroy what he can't have. He's done that with Meghan. He's did that to belittle anyone that he feels shouldn't be above. I believe Piers is very privileged in his own rights, and I don't think he should be reinstated because he's not a role model. A role model allows someone to talk through things, whether there's indifferences or not. If you're going to get to the bottom of racism, then you handle that with care. Walking off a set in the middle of that kind of discussion doesn't help people to understand where the indifferences are, all come together. All it does is cause more animosity, more divide, and actually Piers does have followers, and therefore they're looking at him as a role model, and they're going to take on his behaviour because they don't know no difference, some of them. And this is where you've got superstars, people following superstars or people following this pattern and that pattern. This is all behaviour problems. And for me, all of this privilege, it's not helpful. There has to be equality in the world, and definitely diversity on topics that need discussion. Because one of the things I notice is that when you are having a discussion, there isn't much diversity on the table. Even you go into the mental health, you can go for discrimination, but you're talking to somebody that is not of the same complexion or live the same life. And so therefore, this is where people saying there's not enough understanding, there's not enough equality. When will people of color be treated better with more dignity than they ever have? And I really have to say that because of things that I've been watching lately about Windrush or about Black history is that Black people have been around for centuries.
Oldest civilization.
Okay, but when you in this world, oh gosh, the battery's going to go. When you're in this world, could you just hold that, please? Sorry, love. When you're out there, can we put it back on? Yeah. When you're in this world now, in 2021 now, the problem I have is watching as me. I'm a child that was born in the late 70s, and when I look at history, I never got educated like I'm getting educated now about history. All I resonated with going back at school was roots, or I only have this actual thing in my head is 1066 as well, specific dates and specific traumatic events or things that I've seen. So that's why I remember. But the more I go into attending events for Black histories, the more I learn that there weren't, take for instance, there've been Black police serving officers for centuries.
It has.
Yeah, but people assumes about when you talk about Windrush, if I have to say to the commoners, then they actually think that Black people only came here in the 60s or that year?
Or the 50s.
The 50s or 60s. But that's not true. It isn't true.
What is true about that is the narrative that has been left by the images that we've seen on the Windrush boat and stuff like that. So they show you those images. You made a point of saying at school they only showed you roots because...
No, school, they didn't give us Black history.
Yes, but you said your knowledge of, growing up was to see
that
roots.
Was the only thing that was very traumatic for me,
When you watch Roots, what it's doing is programming you to show that you were always, in essence, a slave. That's your place. That's the reason why those things were shown to us. And as you rightly said, it's now we're going back hundreds of years before Roots, and we're realizing, hold on, there's West Indian and African descent within the royal family going back just a couple of hundred years. We didn't know that until recently, watching the platform with the Black History Month. I believe it's Queen Amber. I believe it. You'll have to check it out, but it's a fact.
That so they are facts. We do history that is right.
So
sitting there.
All that's what's happening now with Meghan now, and this issue of Meghan's baby skin color and stuff. It's already happened already. It's just happening now.
I think let's leave this on a final note. Do you think that had Meghan and Harry stayed here in the UK and continued their royal duties, would their child ever have had a position on the throne?
Well, in essence, that could happen, but a number of things would have to happen. All of the royal family, as we know it, right up to Archie, would have to pass away for them not to be in a position to be on the throne, because you've got to think you've got William, or Charles, who will be next. After Charles is William. then after William is
why would you put him in as a role model, to be honest? Because he's not there for his child now, right?
Yeah, but it's what you're talking about, Charles going on the throne.
Well, yeah. Why would you put him in? I mean, he cheated on me. He cheated on Diana.
That's the problem with all of that is those extramarital activities, or whatever you want to call it, have got nothing to do with monarchy per se. So
you see, people don't understand that, do they?
So well, they don't, and this is the thing. So Charles is the Queen's first son, so he comes next. That's it. Then after Charles, his children, after his children and his grandchildren, then you would jump to who's next is Andrew.
Right. And see, why is he still here?
Right. So
why isn't that being addressed?
Have to understand this. Well, because his mother put him out in the back barn and told him to stay out of the public light. And hey, when you're Prince Andrew, you can just go wherever you want, undercover, do whatever you want, and as long as you lay low, mummy's covered it. You're not doing no public duties, and it will just waft away. And that's what's
they're in the spotlight, aren't they? All of these people in the spotlight, and it's not going to go away. I think at the end of the day.
But I raised this question the other day. It's not going to go away. But even with this situation now, back on Meghan Markle, where issues about the skin color and somebody said it and it was a member of the staff and this and that. How do you investigate the royal family? Because the royal family came out and said, oh, we're going to vigorously investigate it internally. So the minute you that's your mission statement and you use the word internally,
you already said it's coming from inside the house.
Inside. So the report you're going to get is a report that we're going to write where the problem is. Yeah. So this is the whole thing about policing oneself, and this is why I said this business with this young
they're
girl.
a bit like the Met then, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but you see it again with this one. Check it out. This thing with the Met though is slightly different. Yeah, because yes, it is one of their own. But I said it earlier. Look how easy it is. Girl went missing. They identified a suspect. Suspect happened to be one of theirs. Few days later, they find a body. Yes? And then they charge him, and on Monday he'll be in the dock. The gravity of the situation that you've had a serving, but not even a retired policeman or ex-policeman, a serving policeman will send shivers through people's spine, sort of thing. So now that they've wrapped it all up, they'll be keen to get rid of this. Mm-hmm. So from even inside, you say, how the Met going to deal with this? They'll make an example of him, just like they made an example of Robin, and she didn't do, in my opinion.
What's her last name?
Robin Williams, Chief Superintendent.
Yeah, I actually met her. I met her at a women's conference, International Women's Conference.
Yeah.
And listened to her life story, and it was so encouraging, courageous. And then you hear this bombshell, and the way it was done, it was just so wow. Yeah, well, she had to be made an example of, whether or not her truth, their truth, vice versa, somebody's truth, and they were setting an example. But I mean, it was horrible to hear,
and it was high profile, and it was serious.
She's lost everything now, hasn't she?
No. Way as serious, although serious, as this murder charge. But
we'll see what the differences are then, shall we?
But nevertheless, he won't be able to escape the coverage, and you know what's going to happen now. If he's found guilty, friends and family will come out now and say, oh, he was a bit funny with me. All his ex-girlfriends now will come out of the woodwork.
Just go there and get some money?
Well, that's what's going to happen next.
It's all money, Megan. Well, I have to say that off this poor lady's death, may she rest in peace. And any other person that has passed away, may they rest in peace as well. I have to say that, these things do not walk in fear. If we walk in fear, then the enemy always wins. Do not walk in fear, but prepare yourself, get your alarms, You can get them free from victim support. They actually help you with safety devices. If you're listening here, ring up the victim support, ask them, or your local police station, ask them that you want some security. You can actually get the key rings that you just pull, etc. You can order them also off of eBay as well. Yeah, just make sure that you've got some panic alarms. That's what it's called, isn't it? Panic alarms. You can actually get door intruder panic alarms as well. I learned this through dealing with domestic violence from a neighbour. These things happen. And so therefore, victim support is pretty good for answering some of your questions and your concerns. Do seek some support or some guidance on anything that you're hearing today. What can I say? I'm saddened by what you hear, but I think we're getting immune to it. This is the thing. When you hear deaths and you hear such morbid information, do you think the public are now becoming too immune to it now? It's not really such a shock anymore.
I don't know, really. You're right. It's not a shock anymore. It's become the norm. But then when I watch a lot of old-fashioned TV and stuff from 50s and 60s, it don't seem no different. I mean, I was watching something the other day with serial killers of the past, and the things that these people were doing in the 50s and 60s in America and here in England, you just don't think.
It's opened up more because of the media, isn't it?
We've got,
and I think that's where it is. We didn't know about all of these things. Right. We didn't learn about serial killers. That way used to put posters up, didn't they?
Remember, you only had news like 9 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night, and that was it. You didn't have
one channel or the radio.
One channel or radio.
Yes, but the wireless on, love.
That's right. Yeah.
But now it's opened up because everybody has mobile phones. They have you've got the radio, you've got the news, but it is the thing again. You're watching the news. Some is truth, some is myth, some is inspiring, and some of it is they give you what they want you to hear. And there's always a hidden agenda I always think there's a hidden agenda with the news that does come. When it comes forward, you'll start seeing things only if you're looking out for them. You can see what's in your face, but look deep down. What is the tactic here? What is the diversion? And that's what you're looking at, the diversion. I hope that police officer gets all he can. It's not for me to judge what he should get.
He must be found. He must be found guilty by his peers and the CPS. Because see, this is the thing. We all jump to the conclusions. They have told us this police officer has been charged with this crime,
and CPS wouldn't do it unless they've got enough evidence on him, right?
But that's the CPS's verdict.
Mm-hmm.
The jury now will decide, which is the jury is you and me. Those 12 men and women sitting in the dock will decide whether or not the evidence that the police have put before them to scrutinize to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that it cannot be any other person than this individual. That is the test. And in more cases and more often than not, police, we got him. And you go to court and you don't got diddly squat because your evidence was inconclusive, your evidence chain was broken, officers didn't sign off this, officers' handbook notes mismatch, all these types of things. So this is going to be a watertight case against this individual. It has to be.
I wonder what his parents, if they're still alive, or the people that he's around, must be thinking and feeling. Betrayal, disbelief, shocked.
I don't know. Has he even got children himself? I don't know.
We don't know into the background of these people. Tomorrow will there be somebody else doing something as well?
Yeah.
All we can say is keep safe out there, people. we do walk amongst the enemies. Be safe, and know your boundaries, and let people know where you're going, and try not to walk. You should be able to walk, you know, try not to walk alone.
But try and walk in groups and not too late at night. And
give us some advice to keep safe, please.
Don't make yourself an opportunity, especially people forget, I know it's starting to warm up now, but lockdown rules are still in place. Utilize that, and don't be out late. There's no reason for you to be out late. There's nowhere for you to go, bar those people that are still in positions where they have to go to work, or like nurses who do shift work.
Yeah, but the shopping, if you talk about don't be out late, but some people do go shopping late at night, which is a 24-hour service. There isn't that part where there's not very many people around. And I do believe, you should look over your shoulder, even though it's not supposed to, but you've got to now.
But the trouble that you have is, remember, we're short on police. We're short on everything at the minute. So if we had hardly anything last year in particular, with the drain on resources that COVID has brought on it, we have even less. So my advice would be to I know you're right about the late night shopping and stuff. Change your routine.
Yeah.
Because if they decide, well, we're not making no money at this store late at night because of COVID, and they shut it, your routine's changed.
Yeah.
You will have to go shopping during the day like everybody else.
Yeah.
So try to
be more safe. And the other thing that I really do want to point out is
report strange things, sorry to say as well. If you see strange people in the area that seem to be lurking around children's areas and stuff like that, report that to the police.
One more thing, if you have earphones, because a lot of people wear earphones.
It's one of my pet hates.
It is one of your pet hates. I have heard that. These earphones, when you're out, not very good when you're listening to music and you have you can't see what's going on behind you.
No situation awareness.
Yeah, no. So be vigilant with those earphones. Nowadays, people like to listen to their mobile phone with earphones in. Just be vigilant, because you can't hear who's behind you or what's coming up near you. So stay safe out there. Thank you for listening. Please share the video and have your views. I mean, this is freedom of speech. We're not trying to hinder anyone. It's just what we say, what we see, because that's how we feel. And I think people do say what they see based on information. Isn't that why the news broadcasts what they broadcast, so people can have a view of things? Well, this is our view here today. I don't believe, for me, there we are, individuals out there having a war amongst themselves. I think these people have all the money in the world, okay? They don't have a worry in the world. And we are making more money for these people by tuning into their garbage. And I have to say that we are making, continue, here we are. This is not costing me anything here. You know what I mean? Bringing this news here. But they are making and profiting off this news. And they always will, because they are a little bit higher.
But they own
they do. They own the platforms.
They own everything.
So, it's up to you. Have a good debate about things, but just keep your heads about yourselves and be safe. Don't be like them. Don't be like I can't even find the words. Please be inspiring. Don't be disappointing. There you go. Thank you for very, very much for your interview today to discuss these things. Very traumatizing, I have to say, even for us as viewers. We are witnessing and hearing these things which are traumatic. Best thing to do is switch this off now and put a bit of music on and wind down these dramatic events that you're hearing about. So have a distraction technique. When you're hearing bad news, try and replace it with something else. Put some music on, jump around, do something, and appreciate your life and others. Thank you.